The night was cold and quiet on Outpost 17. It was a small human station built on a rocky alien planet, far from Earth. Only one man lived there now. He was a former soldier, tired of war, and tired of people. He came here to be alone, to forget everything. His name didn't matter anymore, not to him, but that night, something happened that would change his life forever. At midnight, he heard a knock on the metal door, loud, desperate, and shaking. He froze, staring at the door like it was a ghost. No one ever came here, not in months. He reached for his old plasma rifle and slowly opened the door. Outside stood an alien woman, barely able to stand. Her skin was light blue, her eyes large and glowing. She held something in her arms, a child, a little girl, maybe 6 or 7, unconscious, breathing fast. The woman looked up at him, her lips trembling, her body soaked in freezing rain. "Please," she said in a broken human voice, "feed my daughter. Take my body, but save her." The man stared at her, shocked. He had seen alien refugees before, during the war, but never like this, never so raw, so broken. Her body looked starved, her clothes torn, her hands bleeding, but she didn't ask anything for herself, only for her daughter. The child in her arms coughed weakly. That's when the man lowered his rifle. "Come in," he said, still unsure why he was doing it. He helped her walk inside, locked the door, and turned on the heater. The woman collapsed to the floor, holding the child close. She didn't even care about herself, only wrapped the girl in a thin blanket she had carried. The man grabbed his medkit and started checking the girl's vitals. Fever high, dangerous, deadly. He injected her with a basic fever reducer and wrapped her in warm thermal sheets. The alien child twitched, then slowly calmed, still breathing. The woman looked at him, her eyes full of tears. She tried to speak, but fell unconscious right there on the floor. He picked her up and laid her beside her daughter. He didn't know what to feel. He was trained to kill aliens, not save them. But something in him whispered, "This is not war anymore." Hours passed. The storm outside grew louder. He made soup. Even though he had little food left, the child woke up in the morning, weak but alive. She looked at him with big, scared eyes and whispered, "Thank you, human." She then turned her head to the alien woman and said, "Mommy?" The mother was still breathing, but not moving. He gave her water and small sips of soup. She opened her eyes slowly, saw her daughter alive, and smiled. Tears rolled down her cheeks. And she whispered, "She lives. You saved her." The man didn't know what to say. He just nodded and said, "Rest now. Both of you are safe." That night, he couldn't sleep. He sat by the door, rifle in his hand, watching the storm outside. His thoughts were spinning. Why did she come here? How did she find me? And why did her words, "Take my body," cut deeper than any wound from war? He looked at them again, mother and child, huddled together. He didn't know their names, their past, or their reasons, but he knew one thing: they were no longer strangers, and he was no longer alone. The knock at midnight had opened more than just a door. It had opened his heart again. The next morning came slowly. The sky outside was still dark, painted with thick gray clouds. Inside the outpost, warmth returned little by little. The small heater buzzed in the corner, fighting off the cold air. The man stood by the table, staring at the alien mother and her daughter. Both were asleep, breathing softly, wrapped in emergency blankets. He hadn't slept at all, not even for a second. Too many questions filled his head, too much confusion in his chest. He made a hot drink for himself, then stopped. He made another for her, then another for the child. It felt strange, automatic, like something a family man would do. But he wasn't that, not anymore. Not since the war. The little girl woke up first, blinking slowly. Her eyes were bright, glowing like tiny stars. She looked around, unsure of where she was, but when she saw him, she didn't scream or cry. Instead, she gave a small nod, like she understood, like she knew she was safe now. "Hungry?" the man asked, pointing to the food. She nodded again and took the warm drink with both hands. As she sipped it, the mother opened her eyes too. Her body trembled as she sat up, still weak. Her hands searched the floor, but the girl was already beside her, holding her. "Mom," the child whispered, and the woman smiled with relief. The man stepped forward, placing food near them. She looked up at him, her eyes glassy and unsure. "I'm not your enemy," he said quietly. She nodded slowly, then whispered, "I know." Hours passed in silence. The woman and child ate slowly, carefully. The man didn't ask questions, he only watched. But, in his mind, the same words repeated. Who is she? Why did she come here? Why offer her body to save her child? Later that day, while the girl slept, the man finally spoke. "Tell me your name." She looked away, then said softly, "You can call me Nira." "And the child?" he asked. "Leela," she replied. "She's my only reason to live." He nodded, then asked, "Where did you come from?" Nira took a deep breath, then began to speak. "Our colony was destroyed by raiders, human and alien alike. They came for food, tech, and bodies. I escaped with Leela, but I had nothing left. No food, no home, no people." The man clenched his fists, remembering how his own people once burned alien villages. War made everyone cruel. "Why me?" he asked, voice low. "Why come here? Why offer that?" Nira looked at him, her eyes full of something deeper than pain. "I heard a story," she said, "that a human once saved an alien child. I followed that story, hoping it was real. I had nothing else left to give, not even my pride, but I had this body, and a mother's promise to save her child." The man didn't know what to say. Her words were not just honest, they were crushing. She hadn't come to seduce or trick him. She had come to beg, to survive, to give everything she had left for her daughter. "I'm not that man in the story," he muttered. "But you opened the door," Nira replied. "That means you still have a soul." The man stood in silence, staring out the window. The storm had calmed, but something else had started to stir inside him, a feeling he thought he had buried with the dead. Compassion. That night, he moved a second bed into the room. He gave them pillows, a heater, even extra clothes. Nira looked at him with surprise. "You don't want my body?" she asked. The man looked at her, eyes tired but soft. "I want you both to live," he said. "That's all." Nira's lips trembled. Then she whispered, "Then maybe you're more human than most." 3 days passed since Nira and Leela arrived at the outpost. The cold winds outside never stopped, but inside, something had changed. The silence was no longer empty. There was a child's soft laughter, the quiet sound of cooking, and the hum of life returning. The man, once a ghost in his own home, now had company. But peace never lasted too long, not for people like him, not after war. He tried to act normal, to be kind. He fixed the heating coils, showed Leela how to make tea, even smiled once. But the nights brought everything back. In his sleep, he saw fire, blood, and screams. Alien faces twisted in pain, his own hands holding a rifle, pulling the trigger. He woke up sweating, fists clenched, heart racing. One evening, he found Leela, drawing on the metal wall with a burnt stick, strange symbols, alien writing, smooth curves and sharp lines. "What's that?" he asked, crouching beside her. "It's a memory map," she said, her voice soft. "Mom says if we forget who we are, we disappear." The man stared at the symbols, unsure why they made his chest feel heavy. Nira came over, saw the drawings, and gently rubbed Leela's head. "She remembers everything," Nira said. "Even things a child shouldn't. She saw what they did to our village, to our people." The man looked at Nira, unsure if he wanted to hear more. But Nira continued, her voice low and steady. "The raiders didn't just steal food or tech," she said. "They took people. Our men disappeared. Our women were sold, some tested on. I ran when I saw one of them take a child like Leela and laugh." She paused, closing her eyes as if the memory burned. "I ran for days, begged for help. One human gave me a map, said there was someone here. He didn't say you'd be kind, only that you were alone and wouldn't shoot." First, the man sat quietly, the weight of her story pressing on him. He remembered his past too, how his unit was told all aliens were dangerous, that mercy was weakness. He remembered the firebombs, the orders, the screams. He remembered hesitating once and his commander yelling, "They're not like us." But now, looking at Nira and Leela, he wasn't so sure that was ever true. That night, as the wind howled, he checked the perimeter. His sensors beeped softly. One of the outer motion detectors was broken. He walked out with a torch and toolkit. While fixing the wire, he saw something that made his blood go cold. Footprints, not his, not Nira's, not Leela's, fresh, heavy, human boots not built for this terrain. And beside them drag marks, signs of someone pulling a crate or bag. He rushed back inside, locked the doors, and checked the security feed. Static, flickers, and one brief frame of figure standing near the outer wall. Tall, armored, helmeted, a mercenary. Or worse, a black market tracker. When he told Nira, she went pale, her voice trembled. "He's found us." "Who?" the man asked, grabbing his rifle. "The one who helped me escape," she said. "But he didn't do it out of kindness. He wanted to own us to sell me. Test Leela's DNA. He's not just coming for revenge, he's coming to take back his property." The man clenched his jaw, feeling the old fire in his chest return. Not fear but purpose. He looked at Leela, asleep on the cot, hugging a makeshift pillow, then at Nira, who was shaking but still standing tall. "No one's taking her," he said, voice sharp. "Not while I'm breathing." Nira looked at him, tears welling up. "Why?" she asked. "Why are you doing this for us?" He paused, then answered, "Because I've taken lives before," he said. "But maybe saving yours is the only thing that will let me forgive myself." That night, he stayed awake, rifle across his lap, eyes on the door. The shadows of the past were coming, but this time, he wasn't going to run. This time, he had something to protect. The next morning came with no sunlight. The sky outside the outpost was dark, heavy with clouds. Inside, the air felt different, not cold, but tense, like something invisible was watching, waiting, breathing down their necks. The man stood by the window, rifle in hand, eyes sharp. He didn't sleep the whole night, not after seeing those footprints. Nira sat quietly near the heater, brushing Leela's hair with her fingers. Leela looked peaceful, but even in her calmness, she was aware, too aware. After breakfast, Leela picked up a stick and started drawing again. This time, her lines were longer, faster, rougher. The man watched her, puzzled. Then he realized she wasn't drawing for fun. She was leaving a warning. What are you writing?" he asked gently. Leela didn't look up, just whispered, "He's here." The man blinked. "What?" Leela looked up, her eyes glowing brighter than before. "He found us," she said. "He wants Mommy back, and me." The man turned to Nira, who froze. "How does she know?" he asked. Voice low. Nira hesitated, then stood and pulled him aside. "There's something I didn't tell you," she said. "Leela is not normal." He frowned. "She's a child." "Yes," Nira said, "but her mind is advanced. She can feel things before they happen, hear things people don't say, remember things no one taught her. Some call it a mutation, others a gift." The man looked back at Leela, who was now drawing a symbol he didn't recognize. She whispered, "He's close." The man with the broken mask, that chilled him to the bone. He had seen a glimpse of the man on the security feed. His mask had a deep crack across the visor. "She's never seen him before," he said, voice tight. Nira nodded slowly. "She sees with more than her eyes." They rushed to check the outpost system's motion detectors, cameras, and door seals. One of the cameras had been fried, sparks still on the wire. The outer sensor showed a blip moving closer, slow but steady. Not a wild animal, not a traveler, someone hunting. The man cursed under his breath, loading his rifle. Nira grabbed a plasma tool and checked the door locks. She didn't look like a helpless mother anymore. She looked like someone who had survived things no one should. They moved fast, hiding Leela in a metal storage room filled with blankets, food, and an emergency vent. "If anything happens," Nira said softly, "stay quiet, don't come out until I say." Leela nodded, her voice a whisper. "He's not just after Mommy. He wants human blood too." The man looked at Nira, surprised. "What does that mean?" he asked. Nira swallowed hard. "He's not a normal raider," she said. "He was a scientist before the war, a hybrid researcher. He tested alien genes with human DNA." The man's blood ran cold. "He's collecting test subjects," he said. Nira nodded, her face pale. "He wants to create something new, something powerful, something obedient. He thinks my daughter is the key." Just then, the door alarm buzzed once, then went silent. The man raised his rifle, eyes locked on the entrance. Then a voice came from outside, distorted through the speaker. Open the door. The voice said, "You have something that belongs to me." The man didn't move. The voice repeated, colder this time, "Give her to me, and I'll let you walk away." Still, silence. Then the door shook violently. Something heavy slammed against it. Again and again. Inside, Nira took a deep breath and picked up a long welding rod. She looked at the man and said, "If we die, protect Leela's future." He nodded once, not as a soldier, but as a guardian. A man who had lost everything before and was not ready to lose again. The door bent with each hit, sparks flying, but just as it cracked open, Leela's voice echoed through the room from the vent. "He's scared too," she whispered. "He fears what I'll become." The man smiled faintly. "Good," he said. "Let's give him a reason to be." The door gave out on the sixth hit. Metal groaned as it bent inward, then snapped like a broken bone. The cold wind rushed in, along with the shadow of a man dressed in black armor. He stood tall, face hidden behind a cracked mask, holding a shot baton in one hand and a plasma pistol in the other. The man aimed his rifle without hesitation. "Turn around," he said, voice low and steady. The masked figure laughed, his voice distorted and inhuman. "Still playing protector, human?" He sneered. "You don't even know what she is." Behind the man, Nira tightened her grip on the plasma rod. She stepped to the side, watching every move. "I'm not yours," she said coldly, "and neither is my daughter." The intruder raised his pistol, fast. The man fired first. The bullet struck the attacker's shoulder, knocking him back, but the armor absorbed most of the impact. He rolled, took cover, and returned fire, sending sparks across the wall. Nira ran to the side and swung the heated plasma rod at the intruder's leg. He kicked her away, sending her crashing into a shelf. The man dove across the room, pulling her behind cover. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, blood on her forehead. "I've had worse." The child, hidden in the storage room, heard every sound. She closed her eyes and whispered quietly to herself. "He's afraid," she said. "He thinks hurting people makes him strong, but he's only scared of what he can't control." Inside the outpost, the attacker threw a small sonic grenade. It exploded with a loud scream, disrupting signals, shaking walls. The man's ears rang, but he forced himself to stay focused. He crawled toward the backup turret switch hidden under the console. The attacker walked slowly now, confident. "You're wasting time," he said. "The child isn't just rare, she's a miracle. She can reshape what we know about evolution. She doesn't belong to you. She belongs to science." The man reached the turret control and slammed the switch. A ceiling hatch opened, and a small mounted gun dropped into place. It fired at the intruder, rapid and hot. Sparks flew. As bullets hit armor, one cracked the mask further. The attacker screamed and fell back, half blind. Nira crawled forward, found her plasma tool, and activated it again. She waited for him to get close, hiding behind the desk. When he did, she lunged with all her strength. She stabbed the tool deep into his side. Electricity surged. Armor hissed, and he collapsed with a scream. Breathing hard, she backed away, shaking. The man approached, rifle still raised. The attacker looked up, face exposed, now half human, half alien, twisted with implants. "You can't protect her forever." He coughed. "Someone else will come. They always come." The man looked down at him. "Then let them come," he said, pulling the trigger. One final shot, and it was over. Silence filled the outpost again. Nira sat on the floor, bruised and bleeding. The man leaned against the wall, panting. From the storage room, Leela stepped out slowly. Her eyes scanned the room, her face calm, not afraid. "You stopped him," she said. The man looked at her and nodded. "I promised your mother I would." Nira pulled Leela into her arms, holding her tightly. "I thought I'd have to give up everything to save you," she whispered. "But he gave everything to protect us both." The man sat quietly, watching the two of them. He felt pain in his ribs, blood on his arm, smoke in the air. But he also felt something he hadn't in years, purpose. Later, as they cleaned up the wreckage, Leela placed a small drawing on the table. It showed the three of them standing together under a red sun. No guns, no war, just peace. You think this will ever happen? The man asked. Looking at the picture, Leela nodded. If we protect each other, she said. Then yes, that night, they slept with the door locked, but their hearts open. The man wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was something more, something better. And he knew one thing for certain, this fight was worth it. The outpost was no longer just metal and wires. It had started to feel like a home. After the attack, the man had expected more enemies to come, but days passed, and no one came. Just quiet mornings, slow dinners, and voices that made the place feel alive. The damage was repaired, piece by piece. Nira helped clean the broken wall panels and rewire the cameras. She was no longer just a mother running for her child's life. She was part of this place now, calm, focused, strong. Leela laughed more often now. Her drawings filled the corners of the room, stars, suns, strange shapes, and sometimes 3 figures holding hands. One was tall and broad-shouldered, one had long hair, and the third was small with glowing eyes. The man looked at those drawings with a strange feeling in his chest. He had no family, no one waiting for him. But here, in this broken place, someone had drawn him into their world, and that mattered more than he could admit out loud. He started teaching Leela some English words. She learned quickly, asking questions no normal child would ask. Why do humans cry when they're happy? Why do people hurt each other if they want to be loved? He didn't always have answers, but he answered anyway. At night, he and Nira sat by the old power core, drinking hot herbal tea. No one spoke much, but the silence between them felt safe. One night, she said quietly, I used to believe humans only took, destroyed, and ruled. But you're not like them. He didn't know how to respond, so he just looked at her and asked, do you still think I saved you? Nira smiled gently. No, she said. I think we saved each other. That night, for the first time in years, the man slept deeply. No dreams, no ghosts, only warmth. One afternoon, while repairing the solar panels outside, he found a small bundle wrapped in old cloth. Inside it was a necklace, thin, silver, with a glowing crystal at the center. He showed it to Nira, and she gasped. This was my husband's, she said. He gave it to me before the raiders came. She held it to her chest, tears in her eyes. I thought I had to give everything up. She whispered, even memories, but you've given me pieces of myself back. He didn't say anything, but he reached out and gently closed her fingers around the necklace. Keep it, he said. Some things are worth holding onto. The next day, a signal beeped on the outpost's long-range scanner. It was a civilian trade convoy passing nearby. Nira froze when she heard it. We can leave, she said softly. We could go somewhere safe. He looked at her, then at Leela, who was watching silently from the corner. He nodded once. You could, he said. You don't have to stay here. But Nira shook her head. We don't want to run anymore, she said. We've run enough. We're not looking for a place. We're looking for someone who won't leave. The man's heart skipped a beat. He had fought wars, faced death, lost everything. But this moment felt more terrifying than any battle, because it meant something was being offered to him, something real. You sure? He asked, almost afraid to believe it. Nira stepped closer and said, you gave us food, safety, and peace, but more than that you gave us hope. He looked at Leela, who smiled and held out a small metal badge she had found in his storage room. It had the old symbol of Earth Defense Forces. She placed it in his hand and said, you're not just a soldier, you're our shield now. He swallowed hard, nodded, and whispered, then I'll stand tall. That night, the outpost felt different, not because of what changed on the outside, but because of what grew on the inside. Trust, warmth, and a bond that no enemy could break. Weeks turned into quiet months. The outpost, once silent and forgotten, had become a place of life. There was laughter now, soft singing, warm food, and sometimes even joy. The man, once broken and alone, now smiled without realizing it. He still checked the perimeter every night, still cleaned his rifle, but deep inside, he no longer waited for war, he waited for mornings. Nira grew stronger, her face no longer sunken with fear. She started planting herbs in containers near the solar bank. Leela helped, giggling as she chased artificial bees the man had programmed for pollination. It was simple, peaceful, strange, a kind of life he never thought he deserved. But peace is never permanent, not in places where people run from monsters. One morning, a human patrol ship appeared in the sky. It wasn't hostile, not military, just a standard Earth survey team. They landed near the outpost and stepped out, 3 officers in clean uniforms. Their eyes locked on Nira and Leela the moment they saw them. One of them stepped forward and whispered to the others, "Aliens," he said, "with a human child." The man stepped in front of them without a second thought. "They're under my protection," he said. Firm and clear, the officers looked at each other, confused, unsure. "You're defending non-humans?" One asked. "She's not a threat." The man replied, "She's a mother." "And the girl?" they asked. He looked back at Leela, who stood quietly beside Nira, watching everything. "She's the reason I'm alive," he said. "She's not a threat, she's a miracle." The tension grew, but the officers didn't raise their weapons. One of them stepped aside and activated his wristpad. "Command's going to want a report," he said. "They'll want to test them." Nira flinched. Grabbing Leela's hand, the man raised his voice louder than before. "No," he said. "You don't touch them. They're not samples. They're people." The youngest officer paused, looked at the man, then at Nira. He saw the fear in her eyes, the strength in her stance. He stepped back and said, "Then you write the report. We won't say a word." The patrol left without another threat, without blood. And as their ship rose into the sky, the man felt something shift, not in the air, but in him. That night, he sat outside the outpost with Nira beside him. Leela was inside, asleep with her drawing pad. Nira placed her head on his shoulder, something she had never done before. And in a voice softer than a whisper, she said, "You never asked for anything in return, not once." He didn't respond right away. Then finally, he said, "You gave me something I thought I'd never feel again. You made me human." Nira smiled with her eyes closed. "I thought I only had my body left," she said. "That night, I thought giving it away was the only way to save her, but you never took it." He turned to look at her. "No," he said, "because what you gave was worth more. You gave your trust, you gave your story, and you gave her your daughter every breath you had." Nira looked up, eyes wet but glowing. "And you gave us a future," she said, "not just safety, but a place to grow." "You didn't take my body," she added, voice trembling. "You gave me back my soul." In the quiet of the alien night, under unfamiliar stars, the man wrote something in his old mission log, not for command, not for records, but for himself. He wrote, "An alien mother came to me with nothing but desperation. She said, 'Take my body, but save my child.' But I didn't take her body, I gave her a place. And she gave me something no war ever could hope. I didn't save them, they saved me."